Here is my final project. Are brands tied to metrics? Can success be measured? By Samantha Farley. Monitoring key metrics across stakeholders allows a company to compare and contrast degrees of brand health and to identify where resources should be directed. Brands rely on key metrics to not just become successful, but to stay on top. Metrics shine a light on brands' strength and what is at risk. The right type of metrics can help provide executives and business brands with the right strategic plans. There seems to be a central focus on customer-centric metrics, which include brand tracking, customer satisfaction, and loyalty. This has been seen as a huge brand measure. Customer-based questions usually always come to mind revolving around the idea to make brand measurements more of a customer-centric metric. The idea of customer-centric metrics can't stand alone. This view of a brand won't stand a fighting chance against competitors for too long. They need to move forward and look at a full image, a 360 degree. It is imperative to have a full picture of the brand across all stakeholders in order to maintain the long-term health of a company. Organizations and brands will need to have a 360-degree view of their brand. They must take into account all aspects of the industry. The metrics provided by this perspective provide insight into not only a company's brand, but also a company's overall reputation. Businesses need to look to stakeholders. The evolution of brand monitoring demonstrates that a company needs more than just customer metrics, it needs stakeholder metrics. Instead of just looking to sell to a customer and appeasing them, businesses need to look towards their stakeholders and investors. A company must look at their brand and go beyond just appealing to their customers. A brand must now appeal to interested parties, from the supply to investors to the media, potential employees, and many others. Metrics can be seen as the muscle behind a business and brand. They force a certain level of effectiveness and efficiency. It helps a company to not just be able to set their goals, but achieve their goals as well. Brand-specific metrics are required to get an accurate view of a company's brand health. Metrics allow an organization to focus its efforts as efficiently as possible, stated by May David. The biggest things about metrics and business brands are being able to understand which metrics are best to tie into your business and which are best to track. There are, however, certain key metrics that stand out for businesses. 4 in particular that should never be ignored. They are what help to tie brands to their metrics: the cost to acquire customers, the lifetime value of a customer, churn rate, and revenue percentages. The first, customer acquisition cost, measures the cost of a landing customer. The budget of a business can come into play when determining the acquisition cost. The second is lifetime value of a customer. The more repeat customers you have and the more those customers spend, the higher acquisition cost you can afford. The importance of loyalty comes into play for this key metric. The loyal customers who repeatedly stay involved with the company or business can create great success for a brand. This is known as a lifetime value. The third is going to be known as churn rate. The amount of time a business puts into a customer can soon be seen as useless when a business loses that customer. Every business gains and loses customers. That's a fact of business life. But still, customers are like failed investments. A rising churn rate could be caused by dissatisfaction with your products and services, new competition within your field, or even the end of a product or service cycle. The last key factor is going to be revenue. There are barely any businesses that rely on just one source of revenue. The changes in revenue percentages can possibly indicate the change in the spending of a customer or a shift in the industry or market. Once you understand the key metrics, it is important to grasp the ties between content marketing and brands. The whole idea of content strategy is businesses creating continuously consistent information that is valuable to a buyer. Brands in particular can be seen as valuable, information that will hopefully reward buyers with loyal customers. Basically, content marketing is the art of communicating with your customers and prospects without selling. Companies send irrelevant information to their audience all the time. What makes content marketing so important in today's environment is the good content marketing. The good content marketing really makes a person want to stop, want to read, and then think, which makes measuring content marketing so important. Marketers need to become more confident about measuring content marketing. Measurements create opportunities for businesses to determine which brands would best sell. To measure awareness, it's helpful to understand that content marketing is effective at every stage of the customer journey, from awareness to consideration to ideally to conversion. Awareness. To measure awareness, companies need to look towards improved search engines or an increase in first-time web visitors or social metrics. Content marketing for awareness is vitally important. Particular as 93% of online experiences begin with a search engine and 75% of searches don't move past the first page of results. Consideration is important to measure because search engines will look to rank content based on content that is relevant. It also looks towards the amount of time actively spent on a site. Social buzz about the site is easily ranked on a search engine as well. To measure consideration, look towards increase in page views, longer visit durations, a decrease in bounce rates, and an increase in social activity. Conversion is important to not just rely on brand relationships. With customers and prospects, it's important to understand the goals in which a company has created. It's not just about measuring engagement and interaction, but being able to measure the business goals created to have a successful brand. When you measure conversion, companies must look towards an increase in marketing qualified leads and an increase in deals closed. Pick a target and a goal and go out and try to reach for it. This image is an EDO image. It's a picture that helps to explain to content marketers what content topics are the driving force for engagement, which content topics are underperforming, and helps to find which content topics are over and under indexed on a site. At IDEO, they're helping companies to see what content topics are resonating amongst their audience. This can also help show content engagement. Once understanding the idea behind content marketing and tracking content marketing, it is important to be able to truly determine which information is best for your business to track and measure. There are two best ways to help determine which metrics are best to track. Simply refer to actionable and vanity metrics. Which out of the two would you assume to be the most helpful? Let me help you out. Vanity metrics is not usually the best use of a company's time. Numbers or stats that look good on paper but don't really mean anything important. Visitors, subscribers, and followers can be seen as a customer-based metric. Although some businesses may see this as most important, it falls lower on the totem pole of relevant. This is a vanity metric. You can buy or pay for an audience. It is important to not become so tied up in the numbers of how many followers a business has. Actionable, however, is a better use of time. The best way to be able to determine which metrics are trackable is to first understand the goal at hand. Businesses must first set goals in order to find actionable metrics. Stats that tie to specific and repeatable tasks you can improve and to the goals of your business. Once knowing what the main goals of a company are, then we can determine which metrics should be tracked for the brand. Kind of putting together the puzzle pieces. A lot of the actual measurements come from the 4 key valuable measurements that were listed in the previous slide. Take a look at some of the lists on the slide and see which ones are the most actual measurements. So we have current active members, monthly active revenue, monthly churn, which is it with the previous slides, and retention rate. It is important to constantly track data, but don't become stuck searching useless data. Understand which metrics are best to be tracked and measured. Here are some examples of the different types of metrics that typically matter to you as you progress through each stage of entrepreneurial maturity. From infant to adolescent to maturity, follow the train. Once taking a look at actionable and vanity metrics, let's turn towards the direction of social media tracking and measuring, especially seeing as how social media is constantly changing, growing, and developing. Companies can't quite get their heads around determining their success metrics for social media. The biggest challenges for companies using social medias are their brand is understanding what to measure. This has nothing to do with the tools they are using or the size of the organization. A huge problem with online tracking is the amount of noise amongst the page. People are getting overwhelmed with all the data that is available to them, making it hard to narrow down which areas that should be tracked. Many companies focus on the easiest numbers: followers, likes, comments, and shares. While it's important to keep up with these numbers to track, they aren't the main things tied to a brand's success. Develop a measurement framework that relates to business objectives. Align with members in your team and figure out what it is that needs to be measured. A big one is return on investment. Another issue with social media measurement is that there are not yet standard success measurements that everyone agrees on. There are, however, 4 stages of social media measurements. The first stage, not tracking, which happens to be one of the least effective. Early stage companies use a variety of tools, often based on personal preferences, and some of the free tools have no metrics associated with them at all, pretty much leaving a person completely and utterly confused. The second stage is tracking the basics. The basic key metrics can seem the most easiest to track because they can be seen as the easiest to find. Think for a second. Followers, likes, shares, comments, usually the first metric companies look for. These would be metrics that stay within a team until there's information that shows real progress or information that shows true value. The third stage is tracking and analyzing. Social media success is determined by how it achieves company goals. Alignment here is very important. It is the goals that are found as the most important to a company and a brand that must be looked at and seen how they can be measured in a more traditional sense. Once doing so, companies can create a framework for measuring social media, kind of give it somewhat a more of a structured sense. The fourth stage is tracking, analyzing, and then integrating. The importance of social media has risen to the highest levels within an organization. Social media is becoming integrated within companies and brands. They are no longer seen as a footnote or a header amongst a company's brand page, but actually weaved into the framework. It's not just fully incorporated into regular company reporting, but the information is so vital that it's taken into account for business planning. Social media can be seen as the best way to merge a customer's voice and a company. One of the goals of becoming a social business is to put the customer at the center of everything you do, and that includes involving social media. It is important to understand that there are many different key metrics in which a business can choose to track. It seems as though brands are truly tied to their metrics. It helps determine their goals, their objectives, and what the purpose of a business brand is. The question, however, doesn't seem to be whether or not brands are tied to their metrics, but how a brand or company measures not just key metrics, but social metrics as well. Hopefully, over time, companies will determine a structure for measuring metrics, and more businesses will understand the importance of not just customer focused metrics, but the entire 360-degree view of a brand metric. Put the puzzle pieces together. Use the correct metrics to have a successful brand. Here is my works cited page that tells you about all the articles, and this is my image works cited page of all the images that I have put on the slide. Thank you very much.